Hello, BookTube. Well, it's been one of those days, and it's just gotten worse as the day's gone on. So I thought I should make time for a Steve stream. It's been one of those days that just works on your one last good nerve. it's it. It's been one thing after another. The neighborhood. I know you're not going to believe this. You're going to have the exact opposite reaction from watching my videos, but the neighborhood is usually not apocalyptically loud. And it was apocalyptically loud for a long stretch of this afternoon. For all the predictable reasons, this is a street where people do not understand to get out of the way of an ambulance. Instead, an ambulance will park behind a car where someone is just talking on their phone, sirens blaring, unable to get by them in order to save someone's mother until a police car comes up, also siren blazing, and a cop gets out of the car, gun drawn, to threaten the person who is blocking the ambulance. Imagine. Not only that, but all afternoon there was a helicopter circling about 10 feet off the ground right over Hyde Cottage. Went all over the usual places online. Probably they've been updated by now, but when it was happening, no one seemed to know what it was about or why it was happening. And also irritating emails from all and sundry, both from viewers of videos, nobody here probably, but viewers of videos, maybe probably people who are new to my channel, just calmly, complacently instructing me on things that I already know that I knew before they were born. But also an email that I got today from a prospective reviewer arguing with me. Arguing with me. I know that I know my astonishment might seem, incredibly privileged or whatever current word is being used, but in both cases, I was the person in charge. In both cases, I was the commissioning editor, one for money and one not. And you can disagree with such an editor. Absolutely, it's a free country, and I, despite what you might think, am not a martinet. But you can't argue with an editor. If an editor says, "Well, I have my reservations about this, that, or the other thing, and here's why," that's one thing. If an editor says, "This isn't right, this isn't what we agreed on, and this isn't what I want," you don't respond by saying, "No, well, here is the reason why I think you should take it anyway, because what you wanted was wrong." It's just, and on top of that, the smallest thing, the least consequential thing is that I use Matthew Capucci's weather app on my iPhone. It's usually so accurate you can set your clock by it, and it said that rain might be sweeping into Boston at around 7 tonight. And so my sleeping bean, my bean is sleeping right next to me here. Uh, I told her at 6, well, we should go out. We should go and stretch our legs, get a little walk under our belt before then, because she doesn't walk in the rain. She absolutely refuses to. And we got caught in the rain. For once, that app was wrong. And on top of all that, there's a tech apocalypse going on. And this time it centers around tablets. Suddenly, none of the 80 million tablets that I hear do everything that I want them to do all in one place. So one of you needs to box up a tablet and send it to me. That's been adding to things. I've got virtually every outlet in the place is being used to charge up all of the tablets that I have, so I can go over all of them with a fine tooth comb and see if there's one that I can approximate into a tablet that I'll be able to use for an hour without thinking, oh well, that's right, this one doesn't do X, Y, and Z, that one doesn't do Y, Z, and Z. It's been a time. It's been infuriating. So I thought I would set aside time. I am buried anyway. I am absolutely buried in work. To such an extent, I was complaining about this to I think it was Randy Ray that I was complaining to, or no, it was Jared Henderson. I was complaining to Jared Henderson that the work that I'm buried in is so bad that I think I am going to have to reinstitute the Boston Public Library on my weekly schedule. I think I'm going to have to go to the Boston Public Library once or twice a week, which, I know you're all book people and a lot of you are library people. So you're probably hearing that and thinking, well, what's the problem there? But the Boston Public Library is not part of my routine anymore. I'm going to have to make it that just to accommodate. Anyway, anyway, I thought a Steve stream would set me on my feet because we could chat about this, that, and the other thing. We could cheer ourselves up, or you could ask me questions or whatever you want. Um, so let's take a look at. Oh my God, there are 50 people here. All right, let's take a look. That can't be right. I must be reading this wrong. This the YouTube studio is saying that there are 50 people here in 5 minutes. That cannot be right. Well, however many people, I recognize some names. So let's see. Constantino666 says you finally caught one. I assume you mean a Steve stream and not an STD. Jenny Parks, sleepy pup. Yes, yes. The bean is sleepy and also resentful because as I on my own would have found it rather nice to be caught in a sweet, gentle summer rain, but she thought she was being pelted with acid. She hates the rain, so now she's resentful on top of all this. Plus, just another brick in the wall here. We had a long afternoon walk, and our long afternoon walk we were doing just fine, chatting up a storm, having a wonderful time. And then after a while, it was pretty clear that she was really, really tired. She was really, really hot. She was overheating. But God forbid you tell her that. She wants to keep charging along. I gently started suggesting that we should start heading back and got met with just anyway. Ryan, have you read oh God, all that buildup of the rotten day that I'm having, and what do I get? A have you read question. Uh, have you read Demon Copperhead? The latest big novel by one of the foremost writers in America. I understand we need to read David Copperfield first. Okay, well, passing over the first question, I read an average of 150 pages an hour for an average of 8 or 9 hours every day, almost exclusively in the field of American new releases. So I'm going to pass over the first question and just move to the second one, which is an absolute negative. You do not need to read David Copperfield to read this book. Absolutely not. Uh, anyway, oh my God, Brenda is starting a have you. If it's a have you read question, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a kitten. That's what I'm going to have. Have you looked into Surface Pro tablets? No. Now, here, let me jot that down. No, I have not looked into Surface Pro tablets. Why? Why do you suggest it? Are they Android? They must be. Why? Why do you suggest it? Are they good? Are they really good? Are they really expensive? Will they do everything I want? No, I haven't looked into Surface Pro. Feel free to email me with details. Let's see. Let me see if I can send myself a message here. Uh, I'm assuming that you suggest it because it's really good. Is that right? Let's see here. It's a Microsoft product. Never had any luck with them, but that doesn't. I'm not. My mind's not closed to it at all. Uh, okay, it looks fairly glitzy. Uh, okay. It's $1,000. The one that I'm looking at is $1,000. That's probably going to rule it out. Let's see here. Kevin JN can't wait to engage more with Pope Patrick. Only about halfway through, but I love how he has appealed to both liberals and conservatives. As an atheist Catholic, I am loving this book. Oh, good, wonderful. All right, let's. Ooh, I lost you there, Ryan. I hope I wasn't the one annoying over email. No, no, I no, you weren't. And I'm sure that that person has no idea that I have a YouTube channel or that I do Steve streams, but don't argue with your editor. Don't do it. I, I mean, I don't want to dig myself deeper into annoyance. I don't want to do that. But nevertheless, it mystifies me. Once upon a time, okay, let's phrase it as a story. Once upon a time, decades ago, If you were a young writer or even a not so young writer and you wanted to break into a field of writing, let's say, oh, I don't know, book reviewing, you might feel like you were facing the cliffs of Dover, that there were no openings, no handholds, no nothing. And decades ago, once upon a time, if somebody offered you a way in with a proven track record of success that was really good and also low stress and really easy, no foot kissing necessary, decades ago in ye olden times, you would have jumped at that. I just anyway. Lucas, hi Steve, first time here. I discovered your streams right when you went dark a week ago. Yes, I did go dark a week ago, and I should be dark now. That's part of why I used the thumbnail that I did for this because I should be dark now. This is it's I have a huge amount of work. I have a huge Lucas, if you're new here, I have a huge project that I have to do this summer. I don't have to do it. I could not do it. I could refuse, but that would be leaving a friend high and dry, and I'd rather not do that. So there's a huge project that I'm doing this summer. Just added on to everything else. Just a gigantic weight added on. A thing that looks bigger than I thought. And that's why I went dark. And that's why I'm probably going to stay mostly dark from Steve streams. I love them more than anything that I do connected with YouTube. But they do tend to go along. Randy Ray is here. We did discuss how busy you are, but you didn't bring up the Boston Public Library. Oh, yeah. Well, must have been Jared that I brought it up with. Yeah, it doesn't look like what I have to do. I'm going to be able to do from the fainting couch. I'm probably going to need a library and extensive interlibrary loan. I don't think that it will be the Athenaeum because of they're hooked up with all kinds of systems. They could do all sorts of interlibrary loans, but they probably have a less muscle than the Boston Public Library, and I think I'm going to need muscle. I think I'm going to need books in other languages and maybe holographs of rare items. I'm almost certainly going to need that. I don't think the Athenaeum is going to be able to do it for me, but the Athenaeum draws to me because it's near the Brattle. And when I don't really like moving. I don't really like moving around unless I'm with the bean. I really don't like moving around. And I like to group my errands. I don't like to, I'm going to go over here, way, way over there, do one thing. I'm going to come all the way back. I'm going to go way, way over there and do another thing. And only that one thing. I'm going to turn around and come back. I don't like those anyway. I especially don't like them headed into summer when I think Boston is going to have an unbelievable summer, just record breaking in every month, in almost every week. And so it's tempting. To use the Athenaeum is tempting because it's near the Brattle, and the Brattle is something I'm not going to rule out of my schedule. So that, and there's a post office right there with a woman I really like. So it's possible in my mind I can form that into a nodule of grouped errands, but it's not very near the Brattle, and it's not on the way to the Brattle. I have to go there and come back, and uh, it's a very tempting place. It's a very, very tempting place. It would feel almost cruel to go there, do whatever I need to do, and then leave instead of sitting in an armchair by the window and reading periodicals. Uh, and it's all of it is minutes stolen away from my little baby Bean, who cannot leave me. She cannot come with me. She can't go out and do something on her own. Um, the Boston Public Library has more muscle. It has less temptation along those lines. Even Bates Hall, which I love more than almost anywhere in the world, uh, but it's not anywhere near anything. It's not on any kind of route that I would use. It's not conveniently close to a post office. It's not conveniently close to a place where I could grab lunch. It's the one old friend that I had in that area. I know two people who live in that area. Well, one I used to be on visiting terms with, and he's dead. So I don't, anyway. Ryan, John Banville Quirk or Martin Cruz Smith Arcady. Uh, okay, for bridge partners or that's what about them? I guess is my question. Maybe I'm too short tempered to do a Steve stream. This has been a trying day. Not just clueless, would be freelancers, but also people who watch my YouTube channel and decide to send me uh, obnoxiously condescending comments. I don't get many of those. I know YouTubers who get lots of them, not only on videos but in person, in their inbox. I don't get most of those, and I guess that means I'm more thin-skinned to them than usual. I don't appreciate people telling me things that I already know, as if I didn't know that. Anyway, James Rucala, hi Steve. Can you recommend a film or TV version of Twelfth Night? Yes, yes, I can. I don't know how available it will be. It's a uh, oh god, I'm not going to remember her name. Well, it doesn't matter because you can use IMDb. The Malvolio is played by Phil Bosco, Bosco. It was a TV version. I think it was a TV version, a closed set version of a stage production for TV. The actress the the actress is famous, and I don't remember her name, but Philip Bosco does a great Malvolio, just great. And that is the version I recommend if you can find it. I don't know if it's available or not, but you'd have to look him up. Jenny Parks, Steve Streams always cheer all of us up, sorely needed after a long day in retail. Oh, Jenny. Today was one of the rare, rare days that actually started to have the cumulative effect of any random day in retail. I think my tolerance has gone down. I don't think I could handle retail anymore. So my hat's off to you. I used to do it every day, and I know what it could be like. And that was I had it pretty easy in retail, pretty easy. I was not fireable. I was not boss aroundable, and most of the time until the very end when the customers just went away. There weren't any customers in a retail bookstore. But once upon a time, I mean, for 15 years, there was a bombardment of customers all the time, and so I had it pretty easy. But even so, it could be wearing. Well, I shouldn't say that I couldn't take the irritation. I couldn't take the irritation. Definitely not. I know that my skin is thinner, but I couldn't take the physical stuff either. On your feet all day long, I couldn't do it. Plus, another aspect that really didn't dawn on me until I was out of it for a year. Because it's like those dreams you have where you think that you're still in school and you don't have any pants on, or you haven't studied for your exam. For a year, I was working it out of my system. And after that, I realized one of the most pernicious parts of retail is that you can't say anything about your own time. Your own time is not under your control. Imagine being an adult having friends saying, "I'm coming into town in 3 weeks. Well, I'll be there on the weekend. I can't wait," and not knowing whether or not you have the weekend free, and having to go hat in hand to some 20-year-old to ask if they can jigger a schedule for you. I'm glad that these Steve streams cheer you up. I hope that this one cheers everybody up. I hope it cheers me up. 70 people in 17 minutes. That is something. Randy Ray. Oh, wait. Where did you go? You disappeared. You vision of loveliness. You disappeared. Here, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna find Randy Ray. Uh, oh God, look at all these people. I'm gonna find Randy. Oh, there you are. Okay. He not only read it, it made his top 10 list for the year. Well, I wasn't gonna bring that up. I wasn't gonna bring. I no sooner said that I was having a rotten day than I hit a "Have you read?" question. Aaron is here. Okay. Hey, Steve. What's a book that's changed a strongly held opinion of yours? Changed it all by itself? Well, okay, there are plenty. I guess there are plenty. Of course, Animal Liberation by Pete Singer. Peter Singer's Animal Liberation. If that doesn't change your mind, I don't know what will. About the fact that the meat you eat is the product not just of death; it's the product of torture. The animals have to be tortured for that meat to get to you, not just dead. But also on a lighter level, I was anything darker than that. Gene Edward Smith did a book on Ulysses S. Grant, a biography of Ulysses S. Grant. Uh, and until then, I had just accepted the normal view of Grant that he was a fairly good. The normal view is that he's a fairly good Union general. I don't think he was a fairly good Union general, but the normal view was he was a fairly good Union general and a terrifically corrupt president. And Gene Edward Smith did a lot. That book is really, really good at just turning all of that around, especially the assessment of his political career. So that changed my mind. Um, uh, I don't know how strongly held the opinion was, but that'll do. Trish Bow will love the Rootin' Tootin' tag. I grew up in a town that had 10 people, unincorporated, but we had a sign. Well, I'm hoping that people do the Rootin' Tootin' tag. I only realized after I put it up that the fact that I am an outcast, a leper, a pariah on BookTube, and that means I don't get tagged might also mean that nobody will do my tag. We'll see. The Spaminator. Oh goodness. Have you read my latest petition to have Great Value brand luncheon meat removed from the market? No. I'm glad you're keeping up with your petitions, though. Might switch from crayon. You get more. You'd be would take it more seriously if they weren't in crayon. Leo Percara is responding to Ryan. If you Google Steve Donahue, Dean Copperhead, you'll see what he thinks about that book or any book. Sean G. Oh, he's here. Yes, the Spaminator is here. Where would I be without my supervillain? Kevin J. And speaking of tablets, Amazon is releasing a Fire Tab 11-inch now, which is getting rave reviews. Under 300 with pen and keyboard. Right, right. And one of the tablets that I have charging here is an Amazon uh, Fire. I think it's an 8-inch. But first of all, the an Amazon Fire tablet, the way it comes out of the box is useless to me. I would need to root it and make it into a relatively stock Android device so that I could put Google Play on it. It's useless to me without Google Play. But I've noticed I've done that now with 4 or 5 Kindle Fires, and I noticed that it isn't really grounded. It isn't the roots aren't deep. You can put Google, you can strip all that Amazon stuff out there, but these things aren't meant to last. I think they probably last a lot longer if you keep them in the Amazon ecosystem, but otherwise, no. And getting a new Kindle Fire, no matter how elaborate it is a risk because Amazon is constantly shutting down the ways to root their tablets, and it's useless to me without that. So, Dylan M, hi Steve. I was wondering what your thoughts were on Nazis of Copley Square. I know you unboxed it on this channel, didn't review it at least in your own name. Is it worth reading? It is worth reading. Yes, I didn't get to it, but it is worth reading. Sean G, have you read the Pickwick Papers? Okay. Jenny Parks responding to the Spaminator, which is not a good idea. Fit to be read is here. Thank God. Oh, thank God. While was the DeSantis announcement on Twitter really DeSantis, or was it an AI reading a DeSantis script? Also, do you drink every time he said woke? uh, I don't think there's any useful distinction to be made between Ron DeSantis and a Ron DeSantis AI. I don't. I I am just DeSantis, Nikki Haley, whoever. I am just baffled that a man who tried to overthrow an election, sack the Capitol, and execute his vice president is being allowed to run for president. I'm astonished by that. Just that alone continues to make me feel like I'm living in some sort of Twilight Zone episode. It makes it impossible to concentrate on the rest. Uh, let's see here. Sean G. Spaminator has shot his wad. Very few comments these days. Oh, his wad will regrow. Jenny Parks responding to the Spaminator. Someone stealing your spot. How dare they? Ryan, what can I expect from Cover Her Face? Will be my first PD James. Also have the Great Deliverance coming. Thank you for the Rex. Cover Her Face is really good. Expect steely verbal control and a pretty good plot. Constantinus 666 is Eric Bright Eyes by Haggard any good? It is very much so. Oh my! I used to have a beautiful mass market paperback of that. I wish I still did. I don't know where it went. I would never get rid of it, and yet it's not here. It just kills me. I'll never see it again. It's probably one of those things that's like $300 on eBay. The Spaminator. If you ask an editor for help, why would you argue with them? Well, I'm not even talking about help. We don't even get to the things that are annoying me today. Don't even get to the stage of help. They get to someone asking for an opportunity. That's why I went on a rant about what things were like in ye olden days. I mean, I'm as cuddly as a kitten on my channel. And despite what any of you might think, or rather not you people, but the people on YouTube who think that I'm Satan incarnate, who think that I'm just pure knuckle dragging evil, everyday sexism, y'all. All the people who have been here will attest. I believe that all of them who have been here will attest to the fact that I'm just as cuddly in person. Uh, I'm, in other words, making this very easy. But I am offering something. And a number of people, whether it's Open Letters Monthly or its successor, Open Letters Review, a number of people have used those platforms to go elsewhere. That's been going on for a long, long time. That's been going on for 15 years or longer of people using that platform to go on to other things. I have no illusions about people staying at Open Letters, but it is a definite, proven way into the industry. It's not that much of an industry. It's not all that great a place to be, but I, I'm offering. It just it just boggles my mind. That's all. Dylan M., our friendly neighborhood supervillain, has a fondness for cans of spam. I think we're starting to uncover his secret origin. Has our friendly neighborhood spaminator spent much time at sea? On a mental level, he's always at sea. Aaron, didn't you say that George Reeves, your favorite Superman actor? What did you think of Hollywoodland? He is my favorite Superman actor. Hollywoodland, of course. Well, you can guess on one level what I thought of it. It continues. Uh, I have often maintained that Ben Affleck's acting career is poorly managed. Might seem strange for a guy who's playing Batman in a multi-million-dollar movie, but he's never going to be considered a great actor. His legacy in Hollywood will not be that unless the last act of his acting career is significantly different from the first two acts. Then he's never going to be considered that way, and he could have been. And I don't understand. I thought he was really good. If we're talking about the same movie, I think he was really good. But it's obviously it's the seedy underside of George Reeves, which is not why I love George Reeves as a character who plays Superman. A View from the Bar. Oh, thank God. How I wish you were here. Empathized with your grief for Amos. Was reminded at an event of his in Miami. We had an awkward delay because he was gobbling a cigar on the patio. Was really apologetic. Vaped through the signing. Yeah, he never stopped. Never. And that is one example among 80 million where he's supposed to give the toast. It's a wedding. It's my wedding, and he's not here. Well, yes, he is. He's out in the parking lot. Or he's supposed to give a literary commencement speech, or he's supposed to be the keynote speaker at a very high profile literary event, and he's not here. The spotlight is on the stage, on the podium, and it's empty. He's not here. And the call would always be, yes, he is here. He's just in the nearest squalid alley, indulging in a habit that he absolutely cannot stop. Not while he was awake. Uh, Ryan, which do you prefer, Quirk or Renko? I was wondering which you appreciated more. That's all. Arcady Renko. Those novels are better. Kevin J.N. Steve, what is your advice on choosing a retirement location? I want to live in a small studio in Waikiki, living simply and reading on the beach. My New Jersey relatives and friends hate the idea. It's a terrible idea. It would have been a great idea. You're not going to get me to change my tune. Uh, you shouldn't retire in this country. You should emigrate. You should have already done that. I, you should definitely do that. You should retire in this country. Your retirement, I presume, is going to last at least 10, 15, 20 years. Let's hope. You're not going to want to be here in 15 years. You're definitely not going to want to be here. The only difference being that in 15 years, you're not going to be allowed to leave. So if you're going to retire, Waikiki on the beach reading all day would be a great plan in the before times. It's not a great plan now. You should retire elsewhere. You can get a great deal. Unfortunately, the way things are going in the last year, probably wouldn't retire to Mexico either. But your money will go a long way in a lot of places that won't face what you're going to face here. Uh, Sean G simply says the word Steve. Constantino 666. I wanted to start reading some old Marvel stuff. What would be the best place to start? Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Avengers, Thor. I tried X-Men but didn't like them. There isn't any best place to start. It's all going to be a matter of what you like and don't like. Just to try a whole bunch and see. I mean, that's true with any Marvel fan. If we stick to Marvel, that's true with any Marvel fan. Even me, even yours truly, as the Marvel titles were rolling out, I was thinking, okay, well, I could be a fan of this, and with others thinking, no, I can't. In fact, I didn't get along with the X-Men for a long time. Didn't like the Hulk at all. Uh, had no interest at all in Nick Fury, uh, and even the titles that I did like, it goes up and down depending on what the creative team is. It all depend on really if you're lucky enough, your library will have a good selection of things for you to pick and choose from. Sean G, what are your experiences in Yosemite Valley? A lot. I've had a lot of experiences in Yosemite Valley, and a lot of experiences in the rest of Yosemite. The 90% of it the tourists don't go to. Aaron, I've often got the impression that people who tell you things you presumably already know are the kids who always got patted on the head having the right answer in class. Well, maybe so, but it's not excusable if they're not kids anymore. And the last 2 days, it's happened for people who are old enough to know better. I mean, plenty of you disagree with me about plenty of things. I disagree with you about plenty of things. That's the fun of this community. But even if you're brand new to my channel, I don't think you need more than 1 or 2 videos to know at least that I do not deserve rudimentary corrections. So, at least you know that. I might be wicked pissa old on camera, but I don't think you get the impression of someone who's lost a step. It was probably benign. It's just bugging me. That's all. I got caught in the rain. All my iPads are acting up. It's been a day. Sergeant Earache, 35 years in retail for me so far. It's pretty crummy. 35 years. Oh my God, that's 10 years longer than I lasted. Lucas, haha, yes, I'm new to your streams, but not your channel. I sent you a few emails with book reviews of old books that everyone has read, but I just finished Titanium Noir, so that'll change this. Oh, wait, this week is what you said? I lost your right in the middle of so you read Titanium Noir, and I'm going to get a review. Great, we'll talk about it and see. I had someone who thought about reviewing that book and then just didn't. Just didn't do it. Sean G, my local BNN has tons of customers now. I think COVID helped. The BNN here in Boston had so few customers that it closed. Uh, Ryan, Steve, what's your favorite food? Cannot say Oreos. Well, I can say what I want. All right, my favorite food is mega stuffed Oreos. Francisco Leal Gonzalez. Hey, hi Steve. So nice to see another Steve stream. Does your project involve a compilation of all your work? I remember the friend of yours was very interested. That's another thing that I'm doing is a compilation of some work, not all my work. There's no way to compile all my work, but a compilation of my columns, my book column that I write every week. But this isn't that. This has nothing to do with me. This is a friend for someone else. This is work for someone else. A very large amount of work for someone else. A large amount of work that at some point in June is going to involve currency analysis, in addition to everything else. Which I'm no more equipped for currency analysis than Frida is. But Ryan, you cheer us up, Steve. I'm sleeping less and reading more. Thanks to you. That sounds almost like an illness. Francisco, will you have time to work on all your NaNoWriMo projects this summer? Well, Camp NaNoWriMo is in what, July? And I don't like to miss a NaNoWriMo event. I don't know how I'm going to justify it. I really don't. I don't know how I'm going to justify it when, or even work it in, unless I do less reading. And that's I don't want to move that at all. I'm still sifting out, how much I can do and when I will do it and how I will do it. So far, it hasn't really cut down on booktube videos, but NaNoWriMo, I don't know. I don't know. The Spaminator, my alter ego, works in retail. I convinced working with the general public is the reason I turned to a semi-supervillain life. Well, it can definitely do it. I didn't have, like I said, I was pampered. Not only did I do what I wanted all day long, but I was also free to talk to the customers in any way that I wanted. I'm not just talking about talking to the customers all day long. That was my job, was to talk to customers all day long about books, but also to talk to them in any way that I like. If one of them was acting up or being obnoxious, this business of treat the customers with kid gloves, get a manager if they're fractious or if there's a problem. No, not at all. If you act like a jerk, I would just call you a jerk. Same thing with obstreperous coworkers. With coworkers who wanted to take out their snobbery or their aggressiveness on the customers, I would just, you know, take them aside, not off the sales floor, just 2 steps from the desk, and say, "Knock that off, and knock it off right now. The next time you do that, I'm going to mock you in front of the whole crowd that's in front of the information desk, and everyone will be laughing at you. And I'll do it every time you're on the sales floor until you quit." You don't get to talk to customers that way when you're around me. You can do it when you're not. And I lost track of how many of those people said, "Well, you're not a lead or a manager of any kind. Why should I listen to you?" And I said, "Well, check. Go ahead and run it as high up the chain of command as you want. What are they going to do?" Anyway, uh, I didn't turn to a life of semi supervillain. Instead, I got out unexpectedly, or I'd still be there. Tori reads, "Hi, Steve. I'd like to start reading periodicals. Do you recommend any in particular? I've been considering the Atlantic, the New Yorker, and some of the book ones such as TLS, NYRB, etc." Well, TLS is not. They've been moving in the direction of a general review, but they're still very much the deep end of the pool. So if you don't devote a lot of time to reading, you're only going to read a few things, and they're not cheap either. You're only going to read a few things in any issue that you're going to like or care about at all. London Review is much closer to that. Also, I think in a lot of locales in America, it's possible to subscribe to just the Sunday Times, the New York Sunday Times, not the rest of the paper, not the weekly paper. And if you subscribe to the New York Sunday Times, you get the book review. You get the pull-out book review section, which is ideal. They ought to sell it separately. I keep thinking that they do, but I've never been able to find it. Uh, a separate subscription just to have that mailed to you. But yeah, The Atlantic, The New Yorker, National Geographic, you didn't mention, but they're great. They're absolutely great. Jenny Parks. I was nosing around your sci-fi list top tens for the last few years, but now my TBR is starting to scare me. I have, I will have faith they'll be great. After all, Steve is never wrong. Steve is never wrong. Not about books. Also, if there are things you want me to look for, I'd be happy to do that. Smith Dukakis. There's a last name I honor. How coincidental you bring up Peter Singer when I was going to ask you about your non-meat consumption. Have you tried any contemporary meat substitute like Beyond Beef? My surly houseboy got me. I don't know if it was Beyond Beef, but it was a hyper expensive package of round patties that were chemically treated to sizzle and smell like hamburger, and it was absolutely grotesque. I did everything according to the packages, to the instructions on the package, and my number one thought when it was done was only a human would think this smells like meat. What I always forget how horrible you people's sense of smell is. No, I've never tried it after that. Besides, it's not necessary. It's not necessary, and it's weak. I mean, I'm not. Am I denying that a hamburger patty or, God forbid, a plate of bacon tastes good? No, I'm not denying that. Of course, it tastes fantastic. It's not a question of trying to substitute the taste. You have to be an adult and say, well, there is no approximating this taste, and the only way to get it is through torture. So, although I liked it, I won't do it. Anyway, that reading guy. How many tablets do you own? Well, that's the question, isn't it? Well, the wall sockets have two plugs each, and they are all occupied. So that's 10. That's 10 tablets that I can see. And they all have problems. One will do, 8 things out of 10. One will do 7 things out of 10, but it'll do those 7 things really well. One will do 10 things out of 10, but there's something else wrong with it. Anyway, oh, Sean Stanfast is here. It's a bit late for you. The Spaminator, Sean D, is here now. It's a party. Jenny Parks responding to Sean Stanfast. How's your breathing? Sean G, Mr. Stanfast, thank you. Mayberry Book Club is here. Good Lord. Oh, all these people here that I know. Let's see here. Sean is responding to Jenny Parks. Gola Muad'Dib, do you use the highlighting or notes feature in your tablet book reading? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely. All the time. All the time. More generously than I do with a paper book because it's so much easier. I don't need to fumble for a pen. I'm right there. All the technique is right there. Uh, let's see here. Ryan says, Steve, did you like the Twin Peaks and are you into David Lynch? No and no. Uh, Jenny Parks, kitten, don't you mean puppy? Please don't switch sides. Is that someone else referring to a kitten? Uh, let's see here. That reading guy. Strange how Jack Edwards hasn't been mentioned in the last few Steve streams. Speaking of which, when is the next episode of Bro Watch? Well, Bro Watch, yeah, I know. It's a lot of things are getting shifted around because I don't know how this is going to, this extra summer project or whatever we want to call it is going to work out. It's going to be more work than I thought. And it's just a question of where will I fit that work in? And naturally, the attention turns to book two, which is entirely elective. It's entirely elective. So, uh, Ryan Affleck in Argo was fantastic, but that's uh, about it for Argo. I would agree. That is just about the only thing. Sam Affleck was good in Gone Girl and The Town as well. Do you like Stanley Kubrick? I agree about both of those performances, and no, I do not like Stanley Kubrick. Jenny Parks, I loved him in Dogma. Most ridiculous movie. It's, he is really good in Dogma. He's overacting. He's hamily overacting. It's tough to concentrate on anything in a movie that has Alan Rickman in it, especially Alan Rickman with no genitals. But yeah, he did what he was supposed to do in that movie. Ryan, hello from Portugal. Moved here after COVID. It's not bad. Excellent. Glad to hear that. Francisco, Ben Affleck plus Jennifer Lopez equals Gigi. No, yeah, but That's the routine go-to thing. Anybody can have a movie like that. But it's rare in his career. Oh, wait, I lost you. Here, let's go back to you. Oh my God, 94 people. Well, okay, 94 people means uh, that the theory that the last Steve Stream did really well because it had a melodramatic title obviously can't be true here. I remember I put major channel changes, and people were theorizing that that's why there were so many people, but that can't be the reason now. It was just a regular, boring old title. Sean G, I'll never leave the USA. Things are not as bad as the media says, certainly a lot like the Civil War or even the 1960s. No. Well, I'm not the media, first of all, but also I never said that things are as bad now. I'm talking about what they're going to be. You can say I'll never leave the USA. Uh, that's fine. Uh, I once thought the same thing. You're making a very, very bad mistake, especially if you have dependents. This is a fascist majority country. It's only a matter of time until it becomes a fascist country. And when it does, you won't be able to go to New York and say I'm leaving because I don't like how you're running the country. Uh, anyway, that reading guide. Could you tell a story from your travels, maybe about being at sea? Oh God, my stories tend to be long. They tend not to fit in a Steve stream. They tend to fit more in an evening over wine and calzones. But I've been at sea a lot. I've spent an enormous amount of time on Earth's oceans. Uh, I wouldn't even know where to pick a story. I wouldn't even know where to pick. It's different when it's 1 in the morning and I'm on the couch up in Vermont with Mark Richardson, who also has a million sea stories to tell. Uh, Aaron says, didn't mean to imply that mansplaining Steve is excusable. No, no, it's not. It's not excusable when people do it. And it's happened today. That's all. Usually I go days and days, weeks and weeks without any hint of it. But it all ganged up on me today. And that I'm just not suited to. I'm just not. If I ever was, I'm not suited to it anymore. People just blandly telling me, "Oh no, you meant this instead of that." No, I didn't, and I also didn't misspeak. It just drives me nuts. And people arguing with me when I'm trying to do them a favor. That just, uh, Francisco. There are a massive exodus moving to Mexico from North America and Europe. Mexico City is the most coveted city to move into. Well, true. Well, Mexico City is a dream. It's true that there is a massive exodus, but it's a bad idea because the same factors that are changing this country are changing Mexico, and they're changing Mexico faster. So it's an unbelievably beautiful place, but it shouldn't be high on your list of alternatives. Lou G, oh my goodness, who called this meeting? I was not alerted. I don't know how to give alerts. I just I just put a video up, saying here's the time. I don't know how to do it any other way. Right? That's right. And it's on something called YouTube. Helen Hunt. Oh my God, that's the name I was looking for. Helen Hunt. Oh, and Paul Rudd. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah, that's the one. It's Helen Hunt. I should have remembered that name. That's ridiculous. But that's the one. It's terrific. You will love it. Jenny Parks, you mean we're actually getting ex libris? Yes. Well, yes. If I can do it, I need to work. I need to figure that out. All those pieces are written. They're all edited. They're all clean. So that needs I need to put it in one body of a text and then write an introduction, another 3,000 words, and maybe add on bits and pieces to the separate pieces, but most of the work is already done. And then is the real work, which is getting it out, making it into a book, making it into a workable file. And I have people who are willing to help me. I haven't done it yet. The Spaminator, the last person that told me something I already knew, ended up face down in the store customer toilet they were trying to tell me how to fix. Alana Shana, did your B&N get bats? Ours did from open stockroom when overnight delivery. Had one crawl up my leg once. Oh, aren't you lucky? No, we never had bats. No. Once upon a time, pigeon got in, and the old store. I worked in two Barnes and Nobles. One was state of the art, and one was in an incredibly old building that is still empty. We left there 20 years ago, and the landlord has never filled it with anything else. And we had wooden freight elevators, two of them. You could hear the wires groaning. It hadn't been serviced in forever. And those led on to a back alley that was tiny. Most standard grade trucks could not get down our alley. It was stuck in between two buildings. and we had rats out there all the time. All not bats, but plenty of rats. Ryan, Steve, so you will sit and read a 300-page book in one sitting. Do you think that affects your feelings about it? No, no. I I don't know what you mean by feelings. I'd like to think that I don't need to defend myself on my comprehension level. Although, judging from the emails I got today, RTL LTR thoughts on Elliot Ackerman. See, thoughts on and then give an author don't really work. I think he's really good, really important. I'd be willing to bet that in a couple of years he will write. He's written most of his books have been really good. I reviewed a few of them. But I'm willing to in a couple of years, if he, especially if he takes time off and really works on something big and substantial, he could write an unbelievably major work, something along the lines of Tony Jude's post-war. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I look forward to that when that happens. Dylan M, are we discussing immigration? If it gets to the point where America is no longer viable, then I doubt Canada or Mexico, the usual go-tos for Americans, will be viable. Maybe Argentina, if we're lucky. It's already at the point where America. Ask yourself a simple question. I've used this metric before on this channel. Ask yourself a simple question. Can Florida's fascist governor, Ron DeSantis, involuntarily lose his job as governor? If you say that America is a democracy, then the answer to that question has to be yes. And therefore, if the answer to that question is actually no, then then America is no longer viable. And the answer to that question is no. He can voluntarily lose it, although he's already pushed through legislation in his fascist state to allow him to run for president while still being governor. That wasn't the law. Now it is a DeSantis law, pushed through by a DeSantis Senate, a DeSantis legislature, and guarded by a DeSantis court. You might say, well, of course he can involuntarily lose his job, right? He could lose the election. Let's say his presidential campaign bottoms out, and in the next Florida governor's election, he loses. He's never going to concede an election as long as he lives. So if he loses an election, he's going to say, I won the election. I'm not leaving the governor's mansion. I'm going to stay. And you might say, okay, well, okay. So he pulls the Carrie Lake and decides, to contest the election. Well, then the law courts will sort it out because it'll be provable that he lost. But the law courts in Florida have sworn an oath to him, not to the law, not to the Constitution, to him personally. So they're not going to overturn any kind of decision that he makes. And you might say, okay, well, fine, then it would go to the Supreme Court, but only if he lets it. If he decides, this doesn't need to go to the Supreme Court, I'm not allowing any cases to go up to the Supreme Court from my own state. In other words, from anyone with standing. Well, then the case wouldn't go. Even if it did, you're talking about the Trump court. They're unlikely to strike it down. And you might think, okay, all right, fine. So we know all the data is out there. We know that he lost. The courts won't take it up. We can march in the streets. Ron DeSantis has a private army. It's paid for by Florida taxes, but it's not accountable to Florida voters. Again, the members of that army, stocked entirely with army surplus from Iraq and Afghanistan, swore an oath to him personally, not to Florida, not to the United States. They're loyal to him, and they have tellingly, enormous amounts of riot control gear. So there won't be any marching in the streets, or people will die. If the only thing that has a chance would be if whoever is president of the United States at the time decides to send in the 84th Airborne Division for a street by street firefight in the streets of Tallahassee. I don't think that's likely to happen. In other words, Ron DeSantis cannot lose his job involuntarily. So he's no longer an elected governor. He's no longer part of the United States system of government. And he's right there in front of us. It's right there in plain view. Anyway, Argentina is a good idea, but there are other good ideas. Europe is a good idea. Anyway, Aaron is responding to Sean and Steve. If people really think America is unlivable beyond saving, they should read Days of Rage. Steve, what's a good counterpoint to that book? Well, I okay. That's a neat way of folding in my capitulation with your contention, but I don't agree with your contention at all. I never said that America was unlivable. It is perfectly possible to live in America now, but it is beyond saving. These things only happen in one way. The only safeguard against it is for the populace not to fall under the spell of fascism. If a large chunk of the populace does, then it only goes in one way. There's no American exceptionalism here. But anyway, that reading guide. Did you watch the debate between James Tour and Professor Dave on the origins of life? How could I have missed it? How could I have missed it? Of course I did. And what a treat! Although we wouldn't go into the weeds here because not many people in this chat will have watched it. But the the part of Steve that rails against science denial and the ignorance of fundamentalism was cheering, of course, the whole time. But the part of Steve, a very active, once upon a time, a very active part of Steve that knows about the debate stage, which a well of a classroom notwithstanding, that's what it was wincing because Professor Dave is so bad. He had the audience hooting and booing him when he was the one telling the truth. And it wasn't because they were the home team advantage. Not at all. There are plenty of partisans for him in that crowd. The crowd was booing and hissing him because he was unbearable in every way possible, on almost every front. Sure, it makes great YouTube viewing, but it is a very big debates are about more than facts. It's a very big tactical mistake for you to accept your opponent's warm welcome to the campus and then spend 10 minutes calling him a liar and a fraud, even if that's what he is. And if you're going to call him a liar and a fraud for your first 10 minutes, don't shake his hand before the debate. And after the debate, they shook hands both times. I don't care what James Tour thinks. Dave Farina should not have done that. What on earth? Would you shake the hand of someone you're calling a serial liar, a danger to children, and a fraud? No, that's just so incredibly hypocritical. I thought it was fascinating. I knew what was going to happen. I knew that it was going to devolve into the two of them just shouting incunabula at each other, and that's what happened. But again, Professor Dave misread the room because the crowd was only noticing who was doing the shouting more effectively, and instead of shouting more effectively or making Tour shouting look still silly, which is either one of which would have been fine. Instead, Professor Dave turns to the audience and mocks them. I just, I know the point was to win, it was to tell the truth, but still, you have to know that the moment that got to me the most is when during the question and answer period when the microphone is out there and all these students are coming up to the microphone and asking all of their horribly based questions of, well, I don't know, this is what I think. And then all of a sudden, uh, Aaron Rock comes up to the microphone, who's not a student and who could have debated James Stewart into the ground like a tent peg into mud because he does understand how to do that. It's just anyway. Sorry to go on at such length. Francisco, Canada is extremely expensive. Canadians are also leaving specifically to Mexico. It'd be a bad idea to go to Mexico. Mexico is about ready to make the same mistakes that America is. Um, Yuri, not your race. Hi, Steve. You were complimentary about A.D. Foster, or am I wrong? How does Pat Cadigan compare an author of another Aliens novel based on Aliens 3, the unproduced screenplay by William Gibson? I don't think I've read uh, the Pat Cadigan. I think I know what you're talking about, but I think I know it only from the YouTube channel Alien Theory, which went over it in exhaustive details. I think that's making me think that I've read it, but I don't think I ever have. Aaron just bought Stephen Andrews' 100 must-read SF great guide. Ridiculously, the fantasy counterpart is unavailable in the U.S. Oh, that's good that you got his book. Great. View from the Bar is back. Fool's errand, maybe, but excuse me, what's your projection of Putin's immediate future? What do you make of Prigozhin? Uh, remarks about revolution. Don't think I know the revolution comments that you're talking about, but I was stunned by the news of a drone bombing the Kremlin. We should all prepare ourselves for that happening to the White House. It's just inconceivable that it wouldn't happen. But Putin's immediate future is determined by only one thing. We like to some people in diplomatic circles like to think that Russia is just a maligned great state. It's not. It's a barbaric dictatorship. So his immediate future is dictated solely by whether or not an intimate who wants to save the country can get close enough to him to kill him. That's all. There's no Dhaka on the Black Sea. He's either going to keep doing this until he dies, or someone's going to kill him and change course. And I don't know. I don't know which of those. Jared Henderson, the very Jared Henderson I was talking about earlier. Got a package of books today, all Steve recommendations. I figure when the baby is born, I can read him this Orwell biography or some Cold War history. Yes, yes, you do think that. You're wrong. And every young parent that I've ever known has thought the same thing. But you're wrong. You're wrong. You're going to spend the next 10 years only thinking about sleep. That's all. Only you're going to be thinking about sleep, and what you're going to be doing is cleaning baby spit up out of your beard. That's all. You're not going to think about anything else. You're not going to care about anything else. All projects are going to go by the wayside. So those books, they'll be waiting for you when your child turns 15, but not before then. Matt Sheridan, odd. Oop, where'd you go? Matt Sheridan, I haven't read a comment from you yet tonight. I don't want to miss you. I don't want to miss any of you. You are all cheering me up, which is great. That's very nice of you. I kind of knew that that would happen. Matt Sheridan, where'd you go? Good evening, Steve. Howdy to everyone in the chat. Jenny Parks, can't get all your recs on Kindle, but I might consider getting them physically. Feel free to email me if there's a book that I might be able to get for you. Matt Sheridan, I love Stanley Kubrick, but cannot stand David Lynch. Halfway there. Jared Donahoe curses, even though I signed up for a notification of this live Stevestream, yet again shakes fist at YouTube. I've missed the start. Well, yeah, there's been a lot. 80 people here. We were up over 100 at one point, but I needed it. After the day that I've had, I really needed this. Aaron says, just heard Tina Turner died. Yes, yeah, Tina Turner died. Dylan M., you seem very widely read in the realm of periodicals. What is your estimation of Alexander Cockburn? I recently read his critiques of Hitchens. Strikes me he is very shrill but very talented. That's a pretty good summary. Very shrill but very talented. He's gotten more shrill over time. But the point is the talent is unmistakable and not ignorable. If you're in that realm of reading, you don't have to be in that realm of reading. You can ignore it completely. But if you're in that realm, that kind of periodical commentary, an extended commentary, you can't ignore him. He's too good to ignore. Aaron, Sailor Steve, how many knots do you know? Well, quite a few of the knots I learned for other than sailing reasons, but I know quite a few. A view from the bar, thank God. Steve, tell a pretty haunting sea story in the intro of his as yet unpublished Abu Dhabi collection. Yes. Yeah, an old friend of mine read that story and said, this is how you're going to start. You're going to start with something that might have the police at your door. So I don't think that would happen, though. Spaminator, Steve, here's a nerdy reading/writing question. When's the last time you used a fountain pen? It's a weird fascination of mine. I own many. I still use a laptop to write, so don't get ranty on me. Well, first of all, the ranty is already baked in, but I don't use a fountain pen. Why would I? Why would I? So that I can brag about what a mess I'm making? So that I can brag about how I'm intentionally saddling myself with the enormous inconveniences of 2 centuries ago? Why would I do that? I wouldn't do that. Everything that I write, except for my journal, which I think you would agree, keeping a journal with a fountain pen would be lunacy. Aside from my journal, everything that I write is for an audience. It's for eyes to see. So, no, I don't use a fountain pen. Malcolm St. John, hi, Steve. Given your thoughts on avoiding the U.S. and Mexico in the coming decade, what are your thoughts on the PO of Canada? Is it the poo of Canada? the uh, 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 the Oppo of Canada? Well, Canada's good. Canada's good. It's a good idea, but they already know that all of the Western Hemisphere wants to move there, so it's going to be harder and harder to do. Gerard Donahue, fist not Fost. Curse you, YouTube notification. Okay, I don't know what any of this means. Sean G, Steve, your book reviews are a thrill to read. Oh, isn't that nice? They're incredibly well written. Well, isn't that nice of you to say? How do you have such a great command of the language? Well, that's very nice of you to say. Thank you. That almost never gets said. It was said in a Steve stream about a month ago, but I virtually never hear that. That my reviews are actually good to read. I put work into them, and I do it a lot, and I myself. That's very nice of you to hear. That I don't know when you say, "How do you have such a great command over the English language?" Well, I read all the time. Uh, that probably helps quite a bit. Malcolm St. John, oops, sent that early. Political climate of oh, okay. Uh, well, the political climate of Canada is nowhere near. It is in no serious danger of taking the turn that is going to happen in the United States and is going to happen in Mexico. Uh, the only danger that's in is that it will then have on its border two autocratic states who will be land hungry. Uh, let's see here. Derek says, "What's going on with the Ukraine war? Who's winning?" Uh, it's a brutal war. Most of it's not being reported in the normal American mainstream press, but President Biden just authorized the sending state of the art warplanes to Ukraine, which could change a lot. Those planes, I don't know how many of them are being sent, but they're a lot better than anything that Russia can put in the air. And these things this will be determined by what is in the air. Francisco is responding to Malcolm. A quasi Trump is getting some momentum, and he might be our next prime minister. If you are okay with unbelievably expensive country, move here. Health system is still good. Malcolm, I read an article today about Canada's household debt ratio being the highest of the G7. Average house price doubled. That reading guy, Steve, could you explain the amazing feeling you get when writing fiction? What exactly is the appeal? Asking for a friend. The appeal is godhood. If you're writing fiction, that's the appeal. Is that it's got the appeal is godhood. It is an amazing cure for anything. For like, for instance, an irritating day like today, an amazing cure. It's an amazing cure. Not at first. You have to get the ball moving first. You have to get the boulder rolling first. You have to get your grooves all set. So it won't happen right away. But once it does happen, once the world of your novel is a place where you can go, it's a place where you can go and leave all the other worlds behind. There's nothing like it. Nothing at all. Uh, Francisco is responding to Malcolm. You'd be correct if you added 200K. People are willing to pay over. Okay, respond to each other. Okay, Dylan M. Looking at the future outlooks for the G7, Malcolm. Oh, you're responding to just a regular conversation. All right. Yuri Ure says, Steve, where to start with Patrick Hamilton? And does translation matter in case of Alexis de Tocqueville, Democracy in America? Uh, well, okay, Patrick Hamilton. It all depends on where you stand on the much vexed question among fantasy fans of science fiction fans of whether or not you want chronological publication order. If you were to go on YouTube and type in Patrick Hamilton reading order, you can just sift through the videos that come up and pick the person who seems most aligned with the way you read. As for de Tocqueville, the Penguin Classic is just fine. And the best book of Jane Goodall, I think, is In the Shadow of Man. RTL Paul Krugman said recently that the national debt isn't a big deal because countries don't have to pay it back. Just keep issuing more debt to pay interest payments. Curious if you agree. I don't think he thinks that way about any other subject, any other kind of debt. I think he thinks that only about this. And what he's talking about when he says that is America's nuclear arsenal, which I like to think is not an economic factor. But that's what he's thinking of. When he says nonsense like that, what he's basically saying is the national debt doesn't matter because no one can make us pay it. Which is a pretty end of the Roman Empire way to look at things, I think. I'm no economist. Aaron, I didn't intend to fold your agreement in with the earlier statement. The limitations of this format make it difficult to form complex questions. I agree. I agree with that completely. It's why as cynical as it sounds, that's why I tend to shy away from complex questions in this format because it really doesn't work. Malcolm St. John is responding to Francisco, so we don't. Oh God, I lost the chat here. Let's go back. Let's find who was it. Malcolm St. John was the person that we were last seeing. There we go. Okay, that reading guy, Steve. Would you ever participate in a public debate, in person or online? What topic would you love to debate about? I'd love to. I would love to. I'd much rather it be in person than online, because if you put me in front of a crowd, if you put me in front of an audience, who am I? Who am I? If you put me in front of an audience, especially a large audience, then you had better not make any slip ups, because I won't. The bigger the audience, the better. Uh, let's see here. Daniel Barney. Hi, Steve. Martin Amis was influenced in his writing by Saul Bellow, if I remember correctly. Are you a fan of Bellow? No. So, what is your favorite book of his? Uh, no, I'm not a fan of Bellow, and that stands to reason, because I'm not a fan of Amos's fiction either. It's just, yeah, definitely the fruit from the tree there. Jenny Parks. I live in Scotland. I'm stuck with Amazon, eBay, or Vinted. Oh yeah. Well, unless I have an ebook or something, still might be worth sending me an email. Randy Ray. Re knots. Oh my. Well. Uh, I'm quite sure I wasn't implying anything. I wasn't implying anything about University of Iowa football players. So what could I possibly be? No. uh, let's see here. The Spaminator is, of course, centered on Alexander Cockburn's last name. Keep it classy over there. Let's see here. Jerome Jacobson. What is a reasonable length for a journal entry? Seems as though most YouTubers either just write a sentence a day or they have graphomania. What would you, Steve, do? Well, I've already outlined my journal procedure. I usually keep it to a page, one page of a journal, and of a journal volume, blank page. Write the date at the top, and then in a separate box underneath, directly underneath the date, I put the quotidia of the day. Up at such a time, rained at such a time, spent this amount of money, spent that amount of money, uh, appointment at such and such a time, reviewed such and such a book. I put that in the box so that I don't have to worry about covering that in the entry. So that I can just, in the entry, I can just write. First of all, write at speed. Don't edit. Don't be fancy. You're not writing for an audience except you in the future. And trust me, you in the future is only going to look at that box. They're not going to care about the words. They're going to care about, oh wow, I had an account at that bank all the way back then. I remember that now. Uh, but what you want to write at speed, that will teach you how to command the English language. You write at speed what you're thinking about now that you're looking back at the day, rather than thinking, since you've got that box of the quotidia of the day, you don't have to make it a narrative and leave nothing out. You don't have to worry about it. Instead, it takes on a more naturally reflective position of what's on my mind now that I'm sitting down to think about the last period, whether you're making a journal entry at night and you're thinking about that day, or you're making a journal entry in the morning thinking about the day before, however you want to do it. Uh, it's more natural if you get the specific stuff out of the way. Uh, Blue Laser Eye in Canada is too cold. Yes, that was part of an immortal song lyric. I'm from Canada. Truth be told, it's just too cold. Let's see here. Aaron, I love my fountain pen from my cold, dead hands. I'm much older than you at 37. It's a waste of time and a dude bro affectation. If you love it, if it floats your boat, if it spreads your mustard, fine. But I'm not going to do it. Aaron, is that Alexander Cockburn related to Olivia Wilde and her Stalinist grandpappy? Uh, I don't know. Jenny Parks is responding to Aaron. We all know Steve's immortal and predates the printing press. Matt, Jared, have fun reading to your baby. He's not going to read to his baby. He's not going to read at all. All he's going to do, literally all he's going to do is frantically Google to find out if the baby does have a bronchial infection, or sit in the hospital waiting room because his baby does have a bronchial infection. That's all that babies do, is get bronchial infections, one after another after another. So, View from the Bar is back. Readers looking for a highlight of Steve's reviewing, Google Steve Donahue plus go play some chess. What does that get? I'm almost afraid to know. I've never written about chess, ever. I, it can't possibly. It must be somebody else you're thinking of. The Spaminator, Steve. What makes a novel work? That's like saying what makes a meal work. There's no one thing. It depends on what the novel is and what it's trying to do. There's no way. There's no way to answer that. It would. Um, uh, Aaron, Jenny Parks, he's one of Anne Rice's vampires. How can you say such a thing, Aaron? If I were one of Anne Rice's vampires, then I would be ripping the shirt off statuesquely beautiful young men and clamping my teeth onto the small of their neck. By the very thought. Dylan M. She's his niece, Aaron. The whole Cockburn family is susceptibly wide sprawling in the arts and letters. Sean G. I want to write a novel, but am too self conscious about my writing. It never turns out well. As to quote from the immortal movie Moonstruck, snap out of it. Snap out of it. We need the novel that you want to write. So overcome the impediment, the personal impediment. Overcome it and start right away. Start today. Uh, Malcolm St. John, sorry, should have learnt my lesson from last time. Got to keep my eyes on the prize. Yes, you do. These intramural conversations between people when I'm right here, not only sexy but fascinating. Kevin JN, I was seriously thinking about being an expat. I Mexico, but the visa has become very hard to qualify lately. I did receive an invite from the Philippines, though under a veteran's SSRV retirement visa. When you look back, when you look back at 1939 Germany, and you read letters from people in a very comfortable situation saying, I don't know, the visa process has become so difficult. I have to make 10 tries. And you're looking back on 1939 and you want to scream at those people because you know what's coming. It's, I keep trying would be my advice, I guess. Jenny Parks is responding to Aaron. Uh, wait, where'd you go? I'm not finished yelling at you. Come back here. I'm not finished demeaning you. Where did you go? Oh my God. Look at all these people. All right. That reading guy, will you ever continue your library tour? Would love to see your history shelves. Well, am I going to continue my booktube channel? That's the question. For God's sake. The question is, how am I going to make videos at all? Don't be deceived by the fact that there's been a steady stream of videos. I have an enormous task that is weighing heavier and heavier. The more I see its outlines, the more I think it's going to require major reshaping of what I do. Can I say that BookTube will be immune to that? What if I did only a library tour and nothing else? Well, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to have to think and maybe experiment. Aaron, the writing question reminds me to ask, what did that influential teacher of yours teach you that made you really love reading? Well, he didn't, it wasn't, I saw what it was to him. I saw what it was to him. It was incredibly important to him in a way that I did not know was possible. It, I, I saw, I knew that he was real, 100% real, and I saw that this was literally everything to him. And I guess that's sort of what did it. It wasn't something like where he said, "Oh, try this instead of that." It was more just an unavoidable example. And also his assurance that this is an adventure. It's not something boring. It's not a chore. It's an adventure. And he turns out he was absolutely right. But I needed that to see. Aaron, it's my layman's understanding that most working economists consider Krugman in the NYT a different person than the Nobel laureate. Could very well be. That reading guy, you never mentioned what topic you'd love to debate in person. Oh, you name it. You name it, a ton of them yourself, right? If you know anything about my channel or me on my channel, you can name a ton of them myself. Uh, Creationist science denial, the meat industry, animal personhood, state of American politics, the absolute pivotal turning point that Donald Trump is in American history. Whole bunch of things. Bigfoot. uh, Aaron says the family insists on pronouncing it Cogburn. Matt Sheridan, Hitchens could never admit he was wrong about the Iraq War. Just maddening. Yeah, I think that's I would agree with that. Yeah. Aaron, silly Stalinist, always manipulating language. That reading guy, what would Steve do? Should be a question everyone asks in all situations. I agree. I agree. Constantino 666, did you like the Illuminatus trilogy? And then you're going to tell me who the authors are. We'll just pass over that and just concentrate on the question. I did like it, but I don't think like it as much as I probably would now. I read it a long time ago. And in between then and now, a lot of people on, for instance, BookTube have sung its praises, including Jason Harrigan back when he had a channel. And that makes me think I should revisit it. It's definitely lodged in the back of my mind. The next time I see that big fat, paperback for a dollar, I will grab it, and that will be my kick in the pants to do it. Uh, let's see here. Gandhi Angles, been enjoying Jeopardy Masters. Have you ever considered applying to be a contestant? No, no. As I've said many times, I know what would happen if I did. It would be a Cliff Clavin moment from Cheers, the neighborhood know-it-all mailman who when he finally gets on Jeopardy, this know-it-all who's been willing to hold forth on every subject under the sun, he finally gets on Jeopardy and gets a question about the postal system and completely freezes. I know that would be me. I'd say, I'd take Beagles for 80, Alex, and I would just freeze completely. So, that reading guy, Steve, did you keep a journal during your travel years? No, no, nope. I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to take me out of where I was and what I was doing. No, no journal, no photographs, no nothing like that. I didn't. I just was there. I wasn't recording anything. Aaron, my best friends were both read Tolkien by their father as babies. Okay. Kevin J.N., do you enjoy the John Wick franchise? Of course I do, especially that last one. John Wick 4 is a masterpiece. Blue is Orion, sad that Ben lost on Jeopardy. He had a good run. That reading guy is answering the view from the bar. Uh, where did you go? Oh my God. Oh my God. There we go. Aaron, make me immortal, and you've got a deal. Jenny Park, Steve's immortality is the real reason we've never met his surly houseboy. No, my surly houseboy is real. I promise. People have met him. People from BookTube have met him. Aaron, you can get a St. Kitts passport if you can buy property? Yes, if you have that nest egg, this is a really good idea to do. Uh, Sam says, "Do you watch Succession?" I have watched bits and pieces of it. I don't like it. It was just a different thing from saying whether or not it's well written, and certainly whether or not it's well acted. I don't like it. It strikes me as very similar to a lot of other TV shows that I've seen that I get all the critical plaudits that are it's celebrating something that I think is disgusting, and it's hard to get around that when I'm watching it, no matter how well done it is. RTL LTR, read Grapes of Wrath last week. Steinbeck drops characters left and right and doesn't IMO bring the story to a satisfying ending. Curious if either of those two things is why you're not a big fan. You, raw technical stuff about how he writes is the deficiencies of those raw technical things is usually why. Yeah, I just haven't liked him. Not a big fan. Blue Laser Ryan, I would leave, but there aren't any nearby habitable planets. The Spaminator. Oh no, there you are. I'm not a vampire, but I've dabbled in time travel and caused a certain amount of mayhem. I still feel bad about one of those mischievous plots. Parts of Boston probably still smell like molasses. That's an allusion to something that some of you may know if you've read the famous book. Aaron, lately your example has been leading me to read more than before, and I'm appreciating that books simply have infinitely more variety and depth than any other media. They're incredible. There's no comparison. There's no comparison with anything else. Uh, This the joy of it, the sheer inner joy of it. There's just nothing to compare except maybe writing them. That would compare. Jenny Parks, did you get an early access to Meg 2? If so, is it as fun as the trailer looks? I did. I have a screen. I watched the trailer, the screener for Meg 2, and it is good. It's much better than the first one. Malcolm St. John, but all I've been I mean, I watched the screener that I got for it, but the only screener that I've been watching over and over and over and over and over again is Across the Spider-Verse, the second Miles Morales movie. That's the only thing that I've been watching over and over and over again. Malcolm St. John, what is your approach to creating new starter kits? They are some of my favorite videos. Went back to watch the Vikings one today, and will start working my way through it soon. Well, the approach is just that I've done this for so many years for so many people, is just book recommending. That's all, which is kind of my most basic thing that I do. Uh, but I really should do another one. It's tough to think about what I should do when it's hard keeping even videos coming without. I should do another one. Kevin JN, so excited. Oh, wait. So excited now, Steve. Did you watch the credits till the end of John Wick 4 and see the bonus scene? I have watched all of John Wick 4. Yes. Uh, if you haven't, you're going to love it. That reading guy, would you ever write a biography of Erasmus? Ooh, I doubt it. Jenny Parks is responding to the Spaminator. Dylan M. Are Steinbeck and Hemingway only held in such esteem because they're placed in school curriculums? They're not bad writers, but very sloppy within the American canon, even compared to contemporaries. I think it's the school canons. Yeah, I think that's exactly what does it. Pretty much exclusively, and then just the bookish types that get exposed to them reverentially in the school canons then go on to become literary critics and literary pundits and also professors. It becomes an infinitely recycling thing. That reading guy, The Enigma of Steve, incredibly prolific writing about books instead of actually writing and publishing books. I know, I know, I know. That has hit me more in 2023 than in any previous year of my life. That needs to change. I need to have a steady business of self-publishing books, long ones, short ones, fiction, nonfiction, serialized things. I need to have a steady. I need to be steadily doing that. And if I had been steadily doing that, if I'd implemented a lot of the ideas that I had, let's say at the beginning of the year, then when this gigantic wodge of work came along that I'm going to be obsessed with all summer long, I would have simply refused it. I would have been I would have been a working writer because I assume that if I did that, if I churned out a book a month, it would start to bring in money. Not a lot of money, but some money. And if it did, I would have totally excusable grounds to say, no, I can't. I'm not available anymore. I'm busy with my own writing. That has hit me more in this year than any other year. I really it's like, I really, really need to address that. I need the time to think about all this. That's all. Uh, that reading guy, is Deb back from Maine? Do you still talk to her regularly? I don't know that she's coming back from Maine. But I do. We do. We are in regular telepathic communication. Aaron, there's a book called American Literary Minimalism that does a good job of explaining what makes Hemingway worthwhile. All right. Well, that presumes that Hemingway is worthwhile. But okay. Jenny Parks, when you said that it presumes that Hemingway is worthwhile, and it also sotto voce implies that I don't see something in Hemingway, and that if I did, this big something that makes him worthwhile, then if I did see that, then I would think that he's worthwhile. And I've been reading him for 70 years. So, anyway, let's see here. Uh, Jenny Parks, when you said you'd give certain authors multiple chances, does that include Neil Gaiman? It does. Not for a while, probably. I know you're not impressed by him. Is there anything specific that you don't like about his work? It seems very posing, very self-conscious, very self-aware, very look at me, ma, I'm writing. All the things that just ruin it for me. They just break the spell of any kind of book. But he has millions of people that don't think that way, and a lot of them are really experienced critical readers. So I could be wrong. He is definitely on that extended list, but not for this year. Anyway, uh, Aaron, a book a month would make you a living, especially romance novels. I think it would. I think it would. I think the main obstacle here, which is kind of ironic for me to say, considering that I'm right now every day juggling and testing and thinking about how to add this project to my life about, in other words, time management. It's ironic when I'm so obsessed with time management that I would be thinking about this, but I honestly do think that the obstacle here would not be finding the time to write. It would be getting the hang of the process of publishing. It's a trial and error thing. It's learning. I would have to figure out a good editor to work with, a good proofreader to work with, good cover design people. I would have to, once I had that, I've heard from so many people that once you do that regularly, once you've done that a couple of times, it gets much easier. It's only the first ones that are a logistical nightmare. What I really need to do is get through those logistical nightmares, get to that point where I'm just regularly producing things. If you don't like this one, you don't like the sound of this one, well, I'll get you with the next one. And building it, I mean, you people are, I feel confident that just out of friendship, a lot of you would buy at least a few books. But gradually that would grow anyway to other people, to strangers who aren't in this chat right now. Uh, But anyway, Scott Tippin, hopefully part of that work bogging you down is completing the ghostwriting of Winds of Winter. I am not ghostwriting Winds of Winter. I am not. Uh, Deep in the reads, you should let us collectively ghostwrite your autobiography based only on what we can glean from your videos. A huge amount of it is not in my videos. A huge amount. A huge amount of key things. Old friends of mine, when they IRL friends of mine who come over here for wine and calzones, often comment on that. Not that I'm a different person. I'm the same person, but there's a huge amount of stuff that's not. I don't think you could do it. I'm interested to see what that would look like. That reading guy is your writing project because of a negligent writer who let a deadline creep up on them, doom scrolling on social media, perhaps. You're awful close there. You're awful close there, bub. Yeah. Is that neglect? Negligent, definitely, yeah. Malcolm St. John, speaking of Neil Gaiman and Vikings, what are your thoughts on his Norse mythology? I liked it. There's no way not to like it. I liked it. It- that's all. I liked it. But his fans don't just like things; they love things. Uh, Sam says David Bentley Hart has a good essay on the cult of minimalist writing, a la Hemingway. Fascinating to read. Well, he's fascinating always. Dylan M. Speaking of their contemporaries, does Fitzgerald suffer from the opposite problem? I remember in school, his peers wrote off Gatsby. My peers wrote off Gatsby, my favorite novel, purely out of spite in being assigned to them. Well, yeah, the spite's going to happen anyway, which is why I'm against this kind of assigned reading. Um, but Fitzgerald is generally good, so maybe what you're saying is along those lines. Uh, oh, wait a minute here. Aaron agreed about Gaiman, narcissistic goth kid with gray hair. I hadn't thought of that. That's pretty good. Jenny Parks, questioning my life choices. I really enjoy both reading Gaiman. He reminds me of the feeling I got as a kid reading New Worlds. Well, you're just in error. That's all. I guarantee you that whatever you enjoy in reading, I mean, aside from obviously you've got sentimental factors involved here. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great, and there's nowhere you're going to be able to take that to some other author. But all the other stuff, all the stuff that you read in him that you like, that isn't sentimental, is a watered down version of things that are done better by other authors. So it's kind of what uh, Duncan McCurdy. If Tom Clancy can still write a book a month, I'm sure you'll manage no problem. That reading guide. Could you share some of the writers you are constantly reassessing? I know Dickens has been there since it was first published, but what are the others? Well, yeah, Dickens is stubborn, absolutely stubborn. So is Proust. That just no matter how many times I visit them, I just don't see it. I, but there are others. There are definitely others. Uh, the See, that arithmetic is all offset right now because I'm moving Amos up on that list for this year. But and they're all, these authors are all over the map. They're not just canonical highfalutin high art things. Like for instance, Clive Cussler, the adventure writer Clive Cussler, his first 10 books before he went on autopilot. Mark Richardson years ago, when he was on BookTube, said, I love Cussler and I follow him, but he also made a case that those early books are really good, and it's a perfect example. Mark is a perfect example. If he says a considered literary opinion, a reaction of his, I can't just ignore it. I have to think, okay, well, that's around the time I thought, all right, we should put Cussler on the long list, and now he's coming up. Uh, the Spaminator is responding to Jenny Parks. Oop, wait, you're gone. Mary Schneider, you keep saying we should leave the country. Are you going to? No, my traveling days are over. This is not a question of that. That is not a question of hypocrisy. My traveling days are over. But yours, most of you are not. Most of you are able to do this. Uh, Aaron is responding to Jenny Parks. That reading guy, Sam Sachs, should write Steve's biography called The Life of a Sexy Influencer and then a really long subtitle. Sam is still cleaning the baby spit out of his facial hair and writing a column every week. So he's not in any position to do that. Uh, Aaron, that said, I did enjoy American Gods. Oh, you're still having a conversation about Neil Gaiman. Okay. The Spaminator, I didn't hate The Great Gatsby, but I didn't get the hype. Uh, that reading guy, speaking of Proust, I'm still waiting for Proustober. Well, It'd be Proustoon, right? It'd be Proustoon this time around. Sean G, how do you deal with pretentious readers who will say books like Finnegan's Wake are only comprehensible if you're smart enough? I get the impression it's large percent of younger readers. Yeah, yeah. Uh, if you're asking how I deal with them, I just ignore them. If you're asking me how I'd respond to them, well, my response would be different from yours because my response would be different from most people because no matter what you think of me, no matter how you're reacting to me personally, I don't think there's much way for you to say, "Oh, this guy just doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just he's just a literary moron." And so I get to respond to them in a slightly more peremptory way than usual. Jenny Parks responding to Aaron. Deep in the read. Sorry if you've answered this before, but why is it you give authors you don't like so many chances? In case I'm wrong. In case I'm wrong. The authors that I give chances to are the ones that I know spark an incredible amount of joy and wonder in a lot of readers. I want those feelings. I of course want those feelings. If there's a chance that an author like that can do that for me, I want to give them another chance to do it. Uh, Aaron, speaking of things done better by other authors, what's a better alternative to The Passage? I admit it hits me because I'm a sucker for heroic sacrifices for the sake of children. Anything would be better. The back of a cereal box would be better. Get me started. Daniel Barney, do you enjoy working on crossword puzzles? I can't help but think you would be very successful at them because you are so well read. Am I right or sadly mistaken? I I don't do them. I don't do any puzzles of any kind because it's reading time. That's reading time. So I don't. I just I've never understood that. I've never understood people saying, "Well, I want to keep my brain nice and sharp, so I'm going to do these puzzles. I'm going to do Sudoku or Wordle or whatever." When you could be reading, there's no better way to keep your mind sharp than reading. Uh, anyway, Aaron, the passage first chapter always makes me cry. It could work as a short story. It makes me cry too. It's physically painful to see something that bad. Tolstoy 111. Do you like Schiller? His plays don't get much currency in the Anglosphere, considering how important they are. It's true. He doesn't get any currency at all. When was the last time we saw any new Schiller translation? It doesn't happen in America. This Titanic figure that isn't known to American readers at all. I just keep waiting every year. I keep waiting for that to change, for someone to come out with a really spirited translation, but it doesn't happen that I know of, unless somebody did it for an academic press and I missed it. Uh, that reading guy, surely this year we will be Dude Bro Vemper. You can alternate between good and bad Dude Bro books each year. What fun to have you as our guide. Dude Bro Vemper is not a bad idea. Uh, Kevin JN, I thought Finnegan's Wake was BS. Then I saw Burgess explain on YouTube, and I think I should revisit. It's it's very valuable reading time of yours. You have almost no reading time. So maybe instead of revisiting Finnegan's Wake, which you are right is BS, maybe what you should do is find a copy of Joyce's book, Joyce Prick. Find a copy of Burgess's book on Joyce and read that. It isn't BS. It's brilliant. Read everything he wrote on Joyce. He wrote a lot on Joyce. That'd be a far better use of your time. Aaron says, "Wow, a cereal box." Well, a reasonably complex cereal box, something with prose on the back. Although a cereal box with just a Captain Crunch trace the path through a maze would be about as good as everything in that entire trilogy. Uh, Dylan M. I, for one, loved reading the nutrition facts in the box of Fruity Pebbles. The Spaminator. I had several people call me unintelligent because I hate Ulysses and found it pretentious in the extreme. I referred them to the Virginia Woolf and her thoughts on the subject. Aaron is responding to Jenny Parks. Deep in the read, so when will you be giving the passage another chance? Not likely to happen. That reading guy, when did you first encounter Erasmus? What is your favorite work by Erasmus? When did I first encounter Erasmus? uh, my favorite work by Erasmus, a much better question, is The Enchiridion. The Handbook of a Christian Prince is my favorite of his. What I wouldn't give for a new translation of that with enormous amounts of annotation and a great introduction. What I wouldn't give for that. Amazing to me, but it's totally unthinkable. Never happened, but that's my favorite thing. Tolstoy 11, I love Ulysses, but couldn't get through more than 10 pages of Finnegan's Wake. Fit to be Read is back. I just remembered you never did one of the tags I tagged you in a year ago. Oh, God. Nobody tags me. Nobody. I'm an outcast, a pariah, a leper. Uh, uh, Jenny Parks, damn, I should probably get to bed. It's almost 2 a.m. Well, we have to wrap this up anyway. You've all been wonderful. This has been exactly what I wanted. But we do have to wrap this up. This has been what, an hour and a half. That's way long, and that's way too long. Uh, Kevin JN, oh my, is Burgess on Joyce better than Joyce? Yes. Oh yes, yes. Burgess on Joyce is brilliant. Joyce really did something for him. It was mistaken, but it was real, and it really is noticeable when he writes. It really really is. If you find Rejoice or Joyce Prick, whatever whatever format or book or edition of his that you can find on Joyce, be well worth the time. I don't know how much of Burgess is readily in print. Uh, I think there wasn't there an ongoing project from some publisher to do everything? I could swear I remember that. Maybe that was years ago, and maybe they went under or they stopped doing it. But I don't know how much of it is in print. But you can often find secondhand copies, and of course, if you want me to look for something, I'd be happy to do it. Uh, let's see here. Oh God. Tim's Too Many Books. Do you want me to tag you for my Flashman Alternatives video? You won't. Nobody does. I'm an outcast, a leper, a pariah. Uh, let's see here. Daniel Marlette. I've never forgiven my professor for making me read Joyce. Tim's Too Many Books. Earthly Powers has a great opening line. Yeah, right. Earthly Powers is a great book. It has a great opening line. He has a great opening line, but it's a great book uh, as well. Dylan M, thanks for the Steve stream. It's been a pleasure. Have a good evening. Hopefully, the deadline won't cut your booktube output too much. We shall see. This Steve stream was an enormous indulgence on my part. An hour and a half of sitting talking to my imaginary booktube friends. It did me a world of good. I cannot thank you all enough. I say this every time, but today I really, really needed it. I really, really did. I thought for a minute that it was a bad uh, choice because the minute I started looking at the comments, I got a "Have you read?" question, but it turned itself around. I thought for a minute, oh my god, the season is going to go the same way as the rest of the day did, but it did. It did, and I figure I can keep this trend up if we wrap things up, and I just say, let's wrap things up and wait for the next opportunity, and I'll see you in the videos. If I do that and then disconnect, just go to writing and reading for the rest of the night, all night long until morning. If I do that and just don't interact, essentially don't interact with my inbox, with my Gmail inbox, I probably should be fine. Probably. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that. Uh, but anyway, I'm hesitant to look at the chat because I'll just keep going, and we do need to wrap this up. Uh, let's see here. That reading guy, you could include translations into your monthly output of books. Still waiting for your Geoffrey of Monmouth translation, or oh my, a natural theology. Goodness gracious. Well, this is another thing that I often think about. There isn't enough time in the day, even for me. There isn't enough time in the day. I often think about translation project, and I often think a lot of you would probably line up to buy such a thing, and I'd make it worth your while. I'd make it valuable for you to do. And the first name that comes to mind before anybody else is Bede, the Venerable Bede, who was the best-selling author in the Western world for the whole of his lifetime, and you'd never know it from the one really good, the one really popular English translation. You'd never know it, and I could make you know it. I mean, there'd be lots of others, Marco Polo, for instance, but Bede would be the first one. I just, where would I find the time to do that in addition to everything else? Aaron, have you written a critique of the passage? I want to know your detailed thoughts on it. No, I have not written a critique of the passage by Justin Cronin, Harvard 84. And nor do I intend to. Don't get me started. Jenny Parks, anytime you have a bad day, just Steve stream and we'll rally to cheer you up. Well, you certainly did this time. And I really appreciate that. I really do. People say, the connections you make online aren't real. it's a parasocial relationship. It's basically parasitism. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. This is absolutely real, and I can count on it. So, uh, Gholam Muad'Dib, did you get into reading as a kid or later in life? Not as a kid. No, was raised and socialized by a species that doesn't know how to read. Entirely raised and socialized by a non-human species, so I did not get into it as a kid. No, it was later. Uh, but Malcolm St. John, thanks for the steam. The stream it made my day as well. Well, good, good. Thank you. I'm glad that we all had fun, and we got up. And we're down to 60 people now, but we got up there. We got over 100 at some point or other. Uh, but anyway, I do need to. I do need to wrap this up. We do need to wrap this. The questions are now flying by, but we need to wrap this up because I need to go. Uh, I can't excuse. I can't justify not doing any more work. So I'm going to have to wrap this up. But I will try. I will try to do another one of these. I did today was an emergency. I needed to do this, but I will try to do another one of these. God, I don't know when. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when I will move. I don't know when I'll find the time, but I'll have to do it. I doubt there'll be a Steve stream for a few days. Let's just put it that way, unless I badly need to. Uh, anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up for now. I'm sorry to ignore the rest of the chat, but I've got to go. This has gone on way longer than I thought it would anyway. So I'm gonna wrap this up, but I will be back. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you very, very much. Oh my.